is Wade, VK1 MIC, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about the wonders of Raspberry Pis, which anyone who thought this was going to be the Great British Bake Off, I apologise, that's not where we're going tonight. So I'll pass a couple round. I've got three before I get too far into it. So the one with the antenna attached, just be slightly cautious of it, but this is a MMDVM board. What? It's a digital voice board, or the best way to think about it is an APRS bridge, is the best way to think about it. This is currently my standard shack setup for DMR, and I use both Brandmeister and the other one, DMR Plus. So I'll pass that one around with the antenna attached, and you'll sort of get a bit more of a picture when I pass them around. So the one that's the one with the antenna has a what's called a hat. What the hell? It's a device that sits on top of the Pi and communicates with the Pi to do something special. This one is the RFIP bridge. And to see a naked Pi or a Pi without a hat, it's the little one with the little handle on it. I put that in my work bag. I can chuck that onto any USB power source and remote into that to do some programming. And the other one I'm going to pass around is the full-size Pi, or the Pi B+, I think it's referred to.
3
So 3 plus, 3B, yeah. And I am checking, anyone that steals me Wi-Fi dongle, I'll come after you. This one actually has a screen attached. It's actually a capacitive touch screen as well as programmable buttons. And my normal portable setup, which I have set up here, I'll pass that around. It also normally has a screen attached as well.
Sorry, Wade, what's that hat called with the antenna?
MMDVM, Mike Delta Victor. No, Mike Delta Mike. That one. And it's actually, if not the same, a baby version of in every digital voice repeater it's the standard. And it runs Pi Star if anyone's interested in that. Just before we kick too far in tonight, I wanted to acknowledge a person who's not here tonight, Richard Bedford. I sit next to Richard. He is normally paid by the Commonwealth to be a Linux administrator. When he's bored of that, he works on my 15 Pis because, as it says there, I'm not a programmer, I'm an expert copy and paster. So I need either something written that says how to do something, and there's plenty of those online tutorials. He has no understanding of the amateur radio world yet, but he's definitely worked on about 15 of my projects. So what is a Pi? The Raspberry Pi is a collection or a family of devices that were created by a UK foundation, specifically or targeted to learning about programming and basic computer science for schools in developing countries. Amateur radio operators being inherently tight asses, we took these tiny boards that start off at about $15 for a naked board, which what that really means in Australia, to get it to a point where it's got a case, a power supply, you're getting change for a milkshake out of about $100. I don't cry if that falls in a river. I get a little bit upset when the device, like my MacBook that holds 15,000 photos from diving, falls in the water. Although my partner would cry when he sees that I own about 15 Raspberry Pis. And about 10 of them are dedicated to amateur radio and the other 5 are doing some other stuff. Which I'll
just says on the board.
My partner says something with a similar sounding word but not a hoarder. So what's inside? What's the horsepower of this baby? Not much. Some people do run their entire computers through the Pis. I prefer to give them 1 or 2 things to do. You can read some of the stats and I'll put the presentation online later, but they're running 512 onboard RAM, I believe, and a 1 gig CPU clock speed. So they're not huge, and they're ARM, which means no Windows. Yes, there's an asterisk there when I say no Windows. There is a Windows Internet of Things protocol that runs on it, but not Windows as we would know it.
Although it has been done.
It has been done, and I own some of the translation software because I wanted to get WinLink HF email working. That program I didn't, but I can actually WinLink HF, and I'll talk about that in a sec. So if we lifted off the lid, and I can, if you're that interested, I can later. What does the big Pi, and I say the big one, which is so not the baby one, not the digital voice. They run on a micro SD hard drive, or micro SD they use as a hard drive. 4 USB ports, Ethernet, onboard Bluetooth, onboard Wi-Fi, HDMI out if you're visual, and they run off 5 volts. I wouldn't be putting any less than 2 amps into it because they get a bit power hungry when they do stuff. But the bit that people are really getting to use are these, the headers or the pins, the general input-output pins. And I'll show you how I use some of those a little bit later. And they can all do everything from provide power to provide inputs and outputs. Now, I'm going a little bit fast because I want to show you rather than just talk about the Pis. My projects at my house. I have an APRS controller that's running AX25 through Direwolf, connected to a 25 watt taxi radio. The same radios that are running pretty much all the VK1 repeaters. Or the portable ones. And I'd like to give a shout out tonight, and you can come up and have a look, but Malcolm, our club secretary, he actually has a portable controller for those that plugs straight into the rear port, and he's actually done that up on another flavour, if you will, on an Arduino board, and it has a voltage regulator, the whole shebang. Plug it in and off you go. You can actually program on site, because no one likes driving out to Giannini, having to take the radio off the rack, hook it up to a computer. You can actually do it all via this little goober here. You've seen my DV hotspot. Now my shack at home does not have a computer attached to it. That's a bit of a lie. What it has is exactly like sitting here. So I've got my 817. This is pretty much a touch power source and antenna, and I can do every WSJTX mode, FLDIGI, JS8 call, Direwolf for both HF and VHF, APRS, HF email through PAT, and it does GPS time sync, the whole shebang. Right there in front of you. So that's an audio interface, CAT if I'm feeling lazy, and it's a GPS for time, and I suppose you can use it for the other thing it's used for, location if you wish. But that's my portable setup. If you think about swapping out this radio for an 857, that's what my home setup looks like. I always run remote, whether that's in my pyjamas with my laptop on the couch, whether that's sitting at work, or as you'll see me later, I can go in via my phone and operate my radio and computer that way. So my home setup is duplicated portable, except it also has a screen like the one I'm pointing around. I have an ADS-B downlink station for aircraft telemetry, also run off a Pi, and I'll show you a picture of that. My non-amateur radio stuff, I actually don't have a key to my house. This is the only key I own, and it's a proximity key to my car. My garage is controlled by a Raspberry Pi that I press a button and the door goes up. There's a camera feed so I can tell that it's done it. And I press it again and it goes down. And I'll do it. My partner's at home and knows that I'm being an idiot with it. The other thing is my media streamer connected to my TV, and my sound system at home is run by a Pi. And just to absolutely earn me some nerd points, I also run a VPN endpoint via a Pi at home. So should I so wish, I VPN into my home network, and I can access all my computers at home as if I'm on the local network, and vice versa. Now, onto the pretty bits. It's not a great picture, but what you're seeing here is a PCB antenna cut for 1090 megahertz through a filter into a USB SDR into a Pi. at home, and I'll go live and I'll show you, I'm getting around 100 nautical miles on that PCB antenna, second story, sitting in the windowsill of RF noisy suburban North Canberra. I went this route, so I actually pump out data to both Flight Radar 24 and Flight Aware. Why Flight Aware? Because they ignore the requests that Flight Radar receive from governments and people who don't want their aircraft data being shared, and I'm very much of the mind of if you're transmitting and I can decode it, more for you. If you don't want it, don't transmit it. So I actually use a non-filtered feed. So this is my taxi radio and in amateur radio goodness. Here's my shack on the left and a blown up version of the taxi radio there. My shack doesn't look that clean anymore. That's the first day I've got those racks. It doesn't look like that anymore. But what I've got here is a Pi Zero, which the little one I've passed around, an audio hat that sits on top, and I didn't have any 3.5 males plugs sitting at home, so I just soldered onto the direct pads on the bottom, straight through a very, very cheap audio controller, and into the back of the taxi radio via some GPIO pins, and it's happily turning away. Uptime's around 70 days or so at the moment, and the Pi uses more power than the radio does on receive. Those taxi radios sip the juice. Total package about 0.6 of an amp, just not doing much.
The radio's the taser, is it?
Yeah, so that's the Tate 8110. So that's the end of the actual presentation. I'm going to flip over to my home station at the moment. You can have a bit of a look at some of the...
About 70 milliamps on the sleeve.
Sorry. There you go. So this is my home shack right now, decoding 20 metre FTA. Live, as so you'll see them come in as we're sitting here. So it looks, if anyone does digital modes, it looks just like your normal one. It's nothing special. I've just started a transmit cycle remotely, and it's calling CQ as if I was sitting in front of it with the mouse. And flick, there's my garage door controller. I press the button. Please make me look good tonight. Oh, my garage is empty because my car is here. My phone's just told me the garage door's open, so there's a bit of lag in the footage. Oh, see, my phone's got the latest version. I can see that it's up. There, it's starting to move in. Great, right, well, that's why I'm not going to do it. But you can see the garage door is now up. There's the door here. And I'll close it again before any nefarious characters come in. And I've also got a notification on my phone. All this is run just by Pi. It never gets over about 1% on the processor. What it's running is a relay, a Wi-Fi controlled relay for want of a better description. And all it's doing, you know, on your garage door, you've got a little red button on the bottom sometimes to kick over the internal. The garage door's coming down now. I've just tapped into the back of that switch, taken 2 wires out, hooked it up to a Wi-Fi controlled relay, and when it receives an O, it does one thing. When it receives a 1, it does the other. Done. Live, Flight Radar, on that PCB stick antenna. That's nothing mounted on the roof, that's not on my disc cone or anything like that. You can see them moving. This is all on that Pi that I showed before. I really wanted to give you guys a taste because a presentation I'm giving in a few weeks' time is actually going to be more about the portable side and why I've had to do some additional tweaking, because when I'm at home, the Pi goes, I'm on a home Wi-Fi network, and does the network time protocol or syncs the time, because time's quite important for most digital modes. When I'm in the bush, as I said flippantly before, it number one detects the home network's not there. That knows it's in the bush. It creates a hotspot for me to connect to, and does a time sync of the GPS. And it will keep doing a time sync about every 40 seconds. So it does a little bit more, and they're actually identical, so I can hot swap them out. They just have a different name for them. Going back to where I was. Oh, speaking of the taxi radio, that's live. This is my taxi radio at home, and stations. I'm running Direwolf, which actually processes packets above a physical TNC. It's about 30% better at decoding. If you're ever nostalgic for 90s graphics, Zaster is just for you on APRS. So basically, it's a bit blurry, but what I'm showing there is I've received the Giannini packet about, I've actually received VK2 HIM, which is down near Wollongong, 414 times, and it's the last station I heard, all that kind of stuff. And if you've seen on ATS recently, information about nets, where the club is, that SOTA is big in VK1, or any of that other stuff, that's from my station. That's pumping it out and putting it out for anyone who's visiting Canberra. It goes out about once an hour.
Those ones you got up there, they're all switched in, aren't they? Not super incorrect.
So if you choose to squint, you will see some have asterisks. Asterisks behind the call sign indicates its path or where it came. Not a lot of them are direct, however, some are. Matt, you run an RX only iGate and you without rewind. Earlier in the year, I spoke to the committee and mentioned that if a VK2 station who's not too far away up in Goulburn went dark, if for some reason they moved house, broken antenna, basically all of our RF to IP, RF to the internet happens out via Giannini to this station, we would lose a lot of that connectivity. So Matt put on an iGate. I run an iGate as well as a TX, so I do send data as well as receive it. So that's actually why I wanted to play with it. This is actually just a prototype. I've got 3 identical radios and 3 identical pies of the tape variety to make up, I want to make up 2 ammo boxes with a 12 volt input and an antenna out, so we can drop them around on a hill somewhere if we needed to not, and I just switch the SD card out. One with the SD card in is a digital iGate or a digipeater. The other one can be a VHF email gateway, and we just swap out the micro SD as needed. I just thought it's a bit of a play, bit of a have a go, see what's needed. And as Matt said, about 770 milliamps on receives.
70 milliamps.
Yeah, so sips the data. Oh, sorry, sips the power.
Depending
on the settings.
But I think Malcolm could give you exact milliamps.
Yep. And the next thing I want to have a bit of a play with is actually getting some of the battery telemetry data to transmit as well. So VK2 CRT is running at 8 volts and 28 degrees inside wherever they're measuring. I think that'd be cool to have on some of our mobile Wyson repeaters as well to know what the state of charge is, know which one needs a top up on fuel or something like that. So yeah, this is just I like pictures. Otherwise, we could sit there all day and watch something as absolutely thrilling as neon green and blue text come through, which is so this is what's really coming in. This is Direwolf decoding, and as I said, I long for the days of 90s imagery. So I go back and feed that data via the map. The mapping side of Zaster. See, doing everything. I understand how like the space guys get a bit frustrated with their rover not responding to commands for 15 minutes while they wait for the lag. Yeah, I try using a Pi remotely. You're trying to get a little bit of that. But I've just zoomed out a bit and you can see basically from Coffs Harbour to well into middle VK3, Giannini gets lots and lots of data, is what I'm going to show. That's received by my station in the last hour or so. So it's just pretty, just a bit of a thing I wanted to show.
So it's handed on through various intermediate gates?
Well, predominantly Giannini. But Giannini hears everything. Having camped on the backside of Giannini, I can hear VK7 direct.
Right.
That's with no ducting. On a good day, you're getting out here. Or if some numpty is running 5 watts in an aircraft with APRS on from the VK4 border, shut down APRS, because that's just getting repeated by everything that hears it. And at 10,000 feet, that's suboptimal, I believe is the term. Of course, the night that I want to show you something, 20's gone quiet.
40's really busy.
40's busy? Okay, well I won't be able to transmit, but I can receive on 40.
Yeah.
There we go, I can see some packets already started. Yep, I was going to say, you can switch over onto yours. But, so, I'll leave that up there and I can go in via my phone, as I said. Oh, I was going to say, that's you playing. So the Pi is not going to win any horsepower contests. However, you ask it to do 1 or 2 things. So even just doing what it's doing, there's the processor percentage up there next to the time. It's not even cracking a sweat. It's not at 40%. Yeah, and it's as I said, connected. So I'm using my phone as my controller. So if you see the mouse move. You can see them all starting to come in now. This is how I play at home. If I do digital, this is how I do it. Happy to answer any questions or flick over to a particular project that you're interested in or something like that. Otherwise, that's really all I had, because without wanting to sell you something, the sky really is the limit with what you can do with them. It's limited by your Google ability, YouTube watching patience, and ability to find someone else's similar project and add to it in the greatest traditions of programming.
What have you got this one plugged into? Which radio?
This is the 857.
Right.
This is into 857. So, and very soon I'm going to have an RF sensing tuner put in the roof, where I could actually, having just changed the frequency now, I could actually tune up on that band remotely, which I think is pretty cool.
What sort of antenna do you have?
A very, very poor one. I have a 4x5 courtyard out the front of my 2-storey townhouse. So I have a very crab-like dipole that literally looks like that. And on a good day, about S7 on 40. On a less suboptimal day is about 9 plus 10.
Is that noise level?
Yeah. And that's still pulling stuff out of the weeds there.
So you want a decent transmitting mag loop?
The problem with 40 is the fun band, except it's also the band I get a lot of RFI in my smoke alarms. Suboptimal for my partner. What else? Oh, the heater. The heater, it turns off mid-transmission, so that's I'm not super popular on 40 at home.
So your dipole is for 40 Hz?
No, it's a untuned, whatever I can fit. Courtyard dipole, yes. Yeah, literally in the suburbs, I have 2 common walls, no one above me.
Random dipole.
Sorry?
Random dipole.
Random dipole, yeah. Yep. Any questions, comments, queries, doubtful points?
I want to know about your GPS dongle there.
Yep. So that's like a $10 U-Blox 7, I believe it's called. And there's if you're interested in seeing it in action, there's my videos. Otherwise, Julian out of Norway, OH8STN, Oscar Hotel 8, Sierra Tango November. He is a massive portable digital nerd, but it's just your bog standard. It pumps out NMEA data at 9800 volts, the standard GPS plug. So happy to answer any questions, happy to go back to a particular project. as I said, I'm not a programmer. I'm super great at copy and paste. I've got it down now to, there's replicas of that exact setup, ZS5 ATC? No, who are Adele and ZS3? So Adele and Sid, the area managers for SOTA out of ZS, they were out here recently with the VK SOTA nerds. I built him one. Actually, I sold him my portable one because he was flying back the next day. He's got it, and this exact kit is getting packed up tonight. Not the radio, but everything else, and heading off to VK5CZ. He's bought that off me. Hardware. Specifically for Yaesu radios, because I have a man in the UK that makes that nice, super small, lightweight audio interface. One plug USB, one plug digital. 280, 270, including case, SD, Pi, USB, sexy angled USB cable so you can get it, snap off, all that kind of stuff. So for the price of a good brand new HT, brand name HT, that interface and all that will work on any of your standard radios. The guy from the UK, whose name has escaped me, does actually make for other radios. I've only used the Yaesu one, so I can only comment on that.
With the RTL SDR drivers for that, you're not running SDR sharp?
No. So, FlightAware, they produce their own image. It's about 2 gig. You download it, put it on the micro SD, put it in, it boots up. What do you want to call me? And I just call what I call it, ADSB Pi, very original. And they give you like an API reference or a serial number. Pop that in here, and it works. It has the RTL's drivers built in, all of that kind of thing. I just literally plug it in, power it up, leave it alone.
Sorry, then what's it gives an output?
Yeah, you don't touch it, it feeds their central servers. And because we're nice people, we automatically get a $500 a year worth business account from Flight Radar 24, which means we can download a year's worth of data, not just the 30 days that a free user can access and things like that. Really great if you wanted to work aircraft enhancement and do some plotting and planning. You get the business side of things as well.
In regards to this, GRARC is on a different frequency, is that correct?
Sorry? No. So there are two, there is a frequency split for ADSB. However, if there was a GA up, I could tell you. But yeah, no. I regularly am pulling all GA, General Aviation, sorry, GA. Yeah, they're running 1090.
Commercial general aviations.
Gliders? Yep, gliders will appear, get them all the time. So know that they're on this frequency, 1090 megahertz. You'll see them come down. I actually have, because again I said I've got too many, I have a Pi that I call SDR Pi, and it's got an RTL with, I've got multitude of whips that can go on it for different frequencies, and I just use a text-based 1090 receiver, and you'll see all of their data come through without the map, because the map's produced online.
So it's about the DV hotspot.
This little baby here. Yep. So this is, as I said, one of these guys, a Raspberry Pi 0W. So the W indicates onboard Wi-Fi, onboard Bluetooth, and there's a hat that slips on top. Any of them might have the pins. So you can see the holes where the pins would normally be soldered. They're inside here, and the hat sits on top. I just give it a Wi-Fi, and it runs Pi-Star, which is pretty much the standard for home hotspots. And I just tell it which server I want it to connect to, and I program the rest through my radio, just as we would for black mount ISACs. But I like talking to, say, SOTA operators in the UK, so I dial up their local talk group and I just talk to them.
Okay, so
it does the translation and all that kind of stuff into the stuff.
Whatever. Yep. Yep. And then there's what I'm really interested in at the moment is there's multi-mode zones online. The one that you heard before is a guy out of ZL1, I believe. He's created where D-Star comes in, DMR comes in, and about 3 other interconnected digital voice modes who normally wouldn't talk to each other, but his computer and all his network does transcoding, and you don't know what's on who the other person is on the other, like D-Star or DMR. They just can't.
The Goldman's got the signal now.
So Goldman are doing
I
multi-mode.
wonder whether up to the best.
Yep. Yep. Questions, queries, doubtful points, particular project, what we go back to, anything like that.
Well done.
Yeah.